everybody, welcome to One More Round. Today, I'm very excited and intrigued to have this conversation. I have Julio Almanza. He and I had met about 8 months, I think it was 8 months ago, through a mutual friend, Chris Durbin. We were speaking at an event called Kingdom Builders, and I didn't know of him at that point in time, but he told his story, and I'll tell you what, it floored me. I thought I had an okay story. I'm like, why am I here? By the time I had heard his, and we're going to go into some of that today. But to see the complete shift from somebody who was in a very dark world and came out of a dark place to somebody who is a huge light in the world today is amazing. And it's just a testimony to God. There's no other way to say it. It is what it is. So welcome, Julio.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, we met that day. I thought your story was really cool. What are you talking about?
Thanks, man. Thanks, man.
I think it's cool when you hear stories of people surviving like really bad stuff that is sometimes it's not meant to break you, but some people let it break them, and they don't get out of that mindset.
It's interesting. Hank and I were just talking about this. Like, we're all given a story to use, right? And you can, your message, your message, but somebody said something that added to that. And it's like, your mess is your message when you add the last three letters, your age. Your message has to age. Your mess has to age. Mm-hmm. And then you can use it to help other people. Because we were talking about, that you go into prisons and you talk to people and that. And Hank was like, I don't know if I could do that. And I said, dude, you and I, that's not our realm. It's not what we're supposed to do. I could go in there. I got no credibility. I'm just this, guy who's had some businesses, had some ups and downs. Now, you put me in a business room, yeah, we're going to have some great conversations because I can relate to a lot of stuff. Put me in a prison, I'm just this, white guy walking in that has no relatability whatsoever. I don't want to, you don't want to.
No, but you know what? I've seen because I used to go to church at in Cave Creek out there on Carefree Highway. It's way up north. It's called Desert View Bible Church, and it's just really white. And I have a lot of good Christian brothers that I've taken with me to some of the prisons with me. Mm-hmm. And they've told me flat out, hey, you know what? Before I started coming here, I used to think of them different.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not gonna lie, and that's like, I admire that, that they tell me the truth. And he's like, now that I start coming here and I'm interacting with them and I'm getting to know them, he's like, I completely feel different about it now. Yeah. Now I know that God can use me here. Mm-hmm. And that's so cool because like, I want to hear stories like yours. I already heard my story. Like, I already went through mine. I want to hear a story where someone did have their parents, or someone, did have this or did have that, but because like you said, everybody has a story, so it goes a different way every time. But I enjoyed your story, man. It was a cool event. I liked it.
Yeah, no, it was great. With that though, because a lot of people that are hearing this or seeing you for the first time, or maybe have seen, because you have a lot of videos that have done very, very well on YouTube, because this is an intriguing story. But where did all this start? Like, tell me about your childhood and kind of how you got into some of the rough background and stuff.
My parents came to the United States at a very young age. My parents got married at 13 or 12.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, it was kind of normal in Mexico like that back then, and they had me at 16. So my dad was a kid, trying to be a man, and once they moved to Chicago, my dad fell in love with the drugs, the women, just the street life, the fast life, the dark world, and he fell victim to it, and he ended up abandoning my mom at a hotel. And she had to move in with her brother because it was the only person that she knew that was in the United States. My mom didn't speak English or just nothing. She was young, and that's the person that ended up, from the age of 4 to 9, he raped me, he molested me, he beat me. he would torture me because he would drown me, and he had this whole thing that he would do. He'd fill up the bathtub with cold water, put ice in it. So it would like start scaring me right from the beginning, you know. Jeez. And he would start drowning me. And there was a room that he had where he would lock me in there for hours, sometimes days, and it was completely pitch black. Like there was no light under the door. There was just black. Mm-hmm. So it made me terrified of water. It made me terrified of darkness, you know, as a kid.
Yeah.
And it was rough, man. It was beatings and beatings. I tried to take as much as I could so he wouldn't, you know, pick on my sisters. And by the time I was 9, I mean, I was kind of numb to violence. I was numb to a lot of things. And I tell people, I'm not going to sit here and lie. You know, I wanted blood. I wanted revenge I wanted to hurt people for what was done to me.
It was done to you, for sure. Yeah.
And I was, you know, every gang member's best friend. Every gang member. I went to the streets very broken, and these older gang members, I always hung around with older guys. Like I was 9, 10 years old. These guys were 19, 20. And I started doing a lot of dirty work for them. I started selling drugs. I started getting into shootings and you know, people, I went to a summer camp last year, and I had all the kids stand up that were my age when I was doing those things. And I told everybody that this is what age I was when I was trying to kill people on the street.
Yeah.
And everybody was taken back because, you know, the kids looked really young. You know,
Right.
they're 9 years old, 10. But that was my life. And it was just, survival was a full-time job for me because I was on the streets, and I got moved around so much by my family. Every couple of months, you know, they couldn't deal with me, so they'd move me somewhere else. So every couple of months, I was in a different neighborhood in Chicago, a different gang. My life was at risk every day.
So like when you're getting moved around, like how do you find the new crowd to like?
You can't, like you know, Chicago is very, very gang influenced territories, and the gangs over there are very. They're like McDonald's. They're very organized. They have a lot of the same gangs. It's not like here in Arizona or like other places where it's just small little pockets of different gangs. No, these are really big organized gangs. Mm-hmm. And once you become part of one neighborhood, you really can't go nowhere else. That's where you grow up. The thing is that it's such a big area that you really don't notice it. Mm-hmm. Because it was funny. There was a time where, you know, I had my restaurant, I had my house in Burbank. I was living the dream, the American dream, and I was like, I've never left my block. I've never left the block where I gangbanged my whole life.
Wow.
It wasn't until I came here to Arizona that I completely left. Mm-hmm. You know, so yeah, you get trapped in that mindset, and it was just really dangerous for me. Going to school, coming back. I had to have a gun on me since the age of 9. I have, I think, a total of 7 gun cases in my background. Like, I got caught with guns a lot because I needed to survive. Right. It was my tool.
Yeah, that's scary. So, I mean, as a kid growing up in that, you know, how do you go from, like, seeing what you saw as a kid, starting out, surviving, and then you kind of moved up through the ranks over time, right? Mm-hmm. And like, what does that look like? And did you ever have like these, I want to get out of this, or was this like, this is just my life?
Well, I thought it was my career, you know, that's why I got better at it, and I got bigger, stronger, more violent. I got better at what I was doing.
Yeah.
You know, they would send me to prison. I would come out a little bit bigger. They would send me, I'd come out a little bit bigger. And I was just I was in training pretty much all the time. When I got arrested in Mexico, when I went to prison in Mexico, that was the roughest. But I tell people there was so much violence over there that if I would have never went through what I went through as a kid, or even as a teenager in Chicago, I would have never been able to survive that. Because in Mexican prison, there is no officers. Like here in America, they're in 5-star hotels. Like prison is prison over there.
You're right.
and people are getting lynched, stabbed, raped, killed, disappeared. People disappear. You never see them again.
Yeah.
So it's it's a different world. And when I was on the plane, when the American consul finally came and got me 4 years later, and I looked back and I looked at all the Americans, because I was back in the day, the United States and Mexico had like a treating program where they were exchanging prisoners, Mexican prisoners for American prisoners. I was on the last plane over. There was 32 Americans on that plane. When I looked back at that plane, I saw how far gone mentally all those guys were in that plane.
Yeah.
And when we got to the federal prison in America, they started showing us videos about Vietnam vets. I think they didn't call it PTSD back then. They called it shock something. PTSD, pretty much. You've seen too much.
Yeah,
you've
for sure.
experienced stuff. Blah blah blah.
Become callous to everything. Yep.
So they showed us videos and stuff like that. And I guess they were trying to like educate us on what was going on. But I had mentally, like, the beatings, how he beat me, how he would drown me, all that stuff that he did to me as a kid, prepared me for all that stuff.
Yeah.
Even being locked in that dark room prepared me for prison. Because I did a year in isolation, and usually most people break.
What's that like? A year in isolation.
I always tell, and this is a test that I have most of my clients do. You pick the smallest bathroom in your house. You take your water, whatever food you're gonna eat, whatever books you're gonna read. Put your, your pillows and sheets in the tub, and you're gonna spend the next 24 hours there, with no phone, no nothing, no contact with nothing. That's what isolation is.
Yeah.
And most people break 3-4 months.
And what is it like? Are you talking to yourself? Are you trying to keep yourself company? Like,
you don't realize how much you need people until you're in isolation.
Yeah.
That it's crazy, because I would have full-blown conversations with myself, but I already knew that I needed to have a routine, even if I was going crazy.
Yeah.
Because that routine is what kept me going. So I would get up, eat my breakfast, work out, start washing the cell, like every piece in there, wash every corner, like with a toothbrush.
Yeah, right.
Do push-ups again, eat lunch, and I just kept track of time by the food coming into the tray, blah, 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 and just keeping busy, sleep, wake up, and do it all over again.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. And I mean, I don't want to make a comparison, but I will say a parallel. When I was in the hospital for 61 days, and it's the same kind of thing, right? Now, you have nurses coming in and out, but you're pretty much alone most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And routine was how I got through every day. And it was like I knew, okay, I was going to wake up, I was going to take my little walk, I was going to get my breakfast, and then I was going to watch Price is Right, and then I was going to probably take a little nap, and then I was going to get up and read.
Yeah,
and
routine.
Then I have lunch, and then blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I mean, it was like every day, and it kept me sane when I didn't have like, people to talk to. And yours is like 1,000 times that. So you did that for a year?
Yeah.
Wow. What about that time have you used to excel yourself today?
I was diagnosed with a lot of mental health issues, and isolation has been one of my greatest allies, my friend, my medicine. I isolate myself a lot, but it's not really isolation like in an unhealthy way. It's just quiet time, and I completely detach myself. I turn off my phone. You won't get a hold of me, pretty much. And I need to be by myself and quiet and in the dark for a minute. Mm-hmm. And I do that every day regularly. Prayer was really, it's really big for me now. But I do a lot of the things. A lot of people tell me, how do you get up at 2:45 in the morning every day? It's my routine. Like, everything is routine for me out here. Like, it's what keeps me from falling back into my depression, all that stuff. I wake up at the same time, I go to sleep at the same time. I train at the same time. I'm a creature of habit, you know, but I also have my days where I'm in manic state, but I've learned to use my mental health issues as superpowers, and if I'm in manic state, I get a lot of work done because I know I'm gonna crash the next day, and I just get it done. I get it done, man. I don't whine no more. I don't whine no more. I just get it done.
Yeah, and then I mean that's a huge. There's something about just like moving forward in life and not kind of dwelling on your situation at the time, because it's like when you sit there and you dwell and you start thinking about, you know, how bad something is and all that you kind of get trapped in this like place that you don't move out of. But it's like that movement is what keeps life going, and you know, your testimony to that. So let's go back. You're in prison. They had extradited you, okay, to here. You're in the U.S. You're in prison. How did you go from that world in prison to today? I mean, you own a gym. You created a movement, Wrong to Strong. You're opening up a podcast studio. You have several other events. You're writing a book. You have curriculum that's in prisons. You go into prisons and you speak. I mean, by many standards, you're a 1%er in making a difference in the world. How did you go from that to today?
I mean, I give everything I've done and everything I'm doing is through the grace of God. Like, I tell people that the day that I got on my knees, something supernatural happened, because I never believed in nothing my whole life. You know, I believed in my gang, I believed in my cartel, I believed in money, I believed in drugs and power, women, everything except him. And when I got on my knees that day, it was November 6th of 2021, something happened. And I tell people all the time, I used to make so much fun of the Christians in prison because I used to be like, oh, now you wanna find God because you got caught.
Yeah.
But if you wouldn't have got caught, you know, I was judging them. But
sure.
I was never a Bible thumper. There was moments where, yeah, I cried to him, and you know, now that I am remembering, yeah, I see him in my life, you know, but it's all been him, man, because I don't have no education, barely got my GED, and he's been making all these doors open up, and you know, I'm just so grateful. I'm actually going straight to the prison from here. As soon as I leave, I'm going to the Phoenix yard. It's been amazing, man, with everything that's happening. I can't stop smiling sometimes, and even that small. I just finished filming something for Netflix.
Okay.
It's gonna be a small series. They took a bunch of, I don't know if I could talk about it. They took a bunch of guys and sat them down in a room, and it was just a bunch of guys that had not normal lives.
Yeah, for sure.
And we were just talking, you know. It's called Ski Mask Boys. It's gonna be out soon. But I sat there and I was looking and I was thinking, I was like, wow, look at, I'm writing books. I'm coming out on like TV shows. I didn't even know that I was gonna live past 17 years old. Like it wasn't even in my head, or even past 20.
Right.
So.
How old are you today?
Next month I will be 49 years old.
49 years old. That's wild. And if I heard you right, you said November 6th, 2021 is when you became, you know, a Christian and a believer, right? That's, for those of you who are watching this, you know, it's December 6th today, 2024. This is 3 years ago. Yeah. That's quite the transformation. And a testimony to what God can do with anybody's life in a short period of time, right? So let's talk about what you're doing today. Like, how are you helping? You know, you said you're heading to the prison. What are you doing there when you go into a prison?
I've been teaching. I created a program called USP Max, and it's a course based on my life. It's a course based on what helped me stay out of prison, and what it's helping them get ready for coming home, like to come home. It's the first chapter is about learning to be alone. Second chapter about taking care of your body. Third chapter, forgiveness. Just a lot of tools and education that I believe that if you grow up in unstable homes or just bad environments, they're not taught to us. But I mean, as soon as I start teaching these guys, I tell people, you know, sometimes, you know, God has people plant seeds and that's it. That's all they do. Like, I get to see the seed grow. I get to see it get watered. I get to see it turn into something.
Right.
To me, that's a blessing.
For sure.
So I love going. You know, a lot of people are like, do they pay you for this? And I'm like, no, I do this for my work. On Thursday, I'm at Perryville with the women. On Friday, I'm at the Annex Yard on Van Buren. Saturday and Sunday, I'm at the Maricopa Reentry Yard. And as of next week on Wednesday, I'll be at the juvenile prison in Buckeye. I've been dying to work with the kids.
Yeah.
And God opened up that door. And it's funny because I was praying to him that morning and I was like, dude, you need to slow it down. Like, I can't. Like, I'm doing too much and I feel tired. I'm not working out. Like, you know, I started struggling with my gym stuff because that's always been my Thunderdome, like my safe haven.
Sure.
It's mine.
It's controlled.
It's
you
mine.
Control it. Yep.
I've been doing it since I was 9 years old, so it's like mine. I'm strong. Like, I squat 400 pounds. I lift the 150s. Like, it's my home.
Yeah.
So it's after I started getting injured, I just felt like it's time to start pulling me away from that. And you know, then I get that call. They're like, "Hey, can you come to the juvenile prison?" I was like, "What?" And he's like, "You're already approved by the warden and everything." He's like, "They want you here. We're gonna show them your show as a soft, introduction. Then you come in." And I was like, "Man, you gotta have a sense of humor, man, because."
Yeah. Isn't it interesting how, you know, sometimes you'll go through something and you're like, okay, why am I going through this, you know, injury? I can relate. I worked out 1,100 plus days in a row every day. I didn't miss a day. I could tell you insane stories I've told in other podcasts. Stupid. Nobody should ever do that, by the way. But it was what I could control, and I loved it. You know, but then obviously I went in the hospital, you know, ended that streak. But it's like when something is taken away from you, or at least you feel like it, and then how that next door that opens you have to go through, that's where God wants you. Like, that is, okay, this is what you're going to do. And the fact that you had been praying for that, and then now things opened up to where now you're talking to juveniles. I mean, that's huge, especially at 9 years old. I mean, you went through everything and more than most of these kids can even imagine. So the amount of help you can give them is pretty incredible.
I'm excited. A lot of big things, man. I go to Florida in January. I leave for a week on my January 6th is my birthday, but I leave on the 7th, and I'll be there for 7 days. I'll visit 7 federal prisons while I'm out there.
Wow.
And then I come back and I have to do Florence and the FCI Phoenix up north, the federal prison. I feel at home there. I'm not gonna lie. Like, just to see the guys when I share my story. I was in Texas. I got invited to a federal prison in Texas, and there's a lot of cartel people there. Mm-hmm. And when we got there, the warden and the chaplain, they spoke to me and they were like, "You have a lot of street cred." And I was like, "How do you know?" And he's like, "The people here have been blowing up their phones. Like, they're talking about you. Like, they know that you're coming." Because they passed out the magazine. I went in with the magazine that did the interview on me. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there was a lot of people there that knew the people that I worked for. It's a small world, you know, yeah. And when I shared my testimony, my story, a lot of the guys were taken back, man. And you know, I just love that I'm able to do that. I'm able to just, I guess, just shine a light on you know, you don't have to live the way you thought you needed to live, because I mean, I was miserable. I drank, I did drugs. It was just anything to forget, anything to numb, anything just to
Yeah.
I call it self-suicide,
Yeah.
you know?
I mean, the last thing you want to do is be alone with your thoughts without being able to numb, because it can be a scary place when you're doing things that you know you shouldn't be doing or you don't want to do, but you feel trapped. I mean, I think that's why a lot of people drink and, you know, do drugs and, you know, do all kinds of things to take themselves away from the moment.
I always tell people, you know, it's not even the drug's fault. The drug is actually doing what it needs to do. You're forgetting it. Yeah, it takes you to a very bad place in your life, you know, but you're the problem because you're the one that, you know, you can't stand your own skin.
Yeah, right.
So you have to do the healing, and that's what I teach, you know, the guys, the girls. I teach them, you know, if I was able to heal the trauma that I experienced and I went through and I saw, so can you. And you know, I'm very careful about how I share, because I feel that people's hearts are very hard nowadays. You know, I'm not the type to push, you know, Jesus down your throat or anything like that. I call it Jesus with a ski mask.
I like that.
They don't see it coming.
Yeah.
You know, all they see is this big guy. I talk about my story, but then at the end I take off my mask and it's Jesus, because I'm telling his story. It's not mine.
Right.
You know, he changed my heart. It wasn't me. Everything that I'm doing is because of him. It's why I obey. It's why I say yes. I raised my hand, and the day that he changed my heart, I told him, hey, send me wherever you need to send me, and I'll go, because I know you'll provide. And, you know, it's funny because at the beginning, when all those doors were opening up and I was going to this prison, that prison, I was flying here, flying there, I was trying to make up the excuse that I wasn't going to be able to do it because I wasn't financially able to do it. But he kept providing.
Yeah.
He kept giving me more clients, to the point where I had to raise my prices to make more money. And I started making more money, and I was like, dude, you're funny. I was like, you know, so we spent, I say we, as me and my wife spent $32,000 last year in like missionary work.
Wow.
And I didn't even know that until we did our, like, my taxes and all that stuff, and like I was like, where did that money even come from?
Yeah.
Because I didn't make that much. Yeah. But it's all him, man. And
oh, that's so cool, man. So tell me about your wife. How'd you guys meet? I mean, where'd that come from?
I met her at the gym. I met her in 2019. She's the one that God used to lead me to him. She talked about God all that time, and there was a moment where I was trying to commit suicide, and I called her. She kept me on the phone. I fell asleep that day. Didn't do nothing. And I went into the gym the next day. God used my wife in such a way where he taught me what, like, true love was. She gave me a hug the next day, and I tell this story. I've said it a million times. I felt like punching her, because I had never felt so vulnerable in my life. And, you know, I fought it, and I was mean to her, and she kept praying for me, and we were together for 2 years, and finally she was like, you know what? She was like, I thought I could help you, but I tell people, there's 3 JCs. Just like the theater has 3 curtains, there's 3 JCs.
Yeah.
The first curtain, you know, the public sees.
Yeah.
Second curtain, where there's little couple sandbags here and there, your family, you know, sees it. The last curtain, that's the person that lives with you sees.
Yes.
So a lot of people are not familiar with that JC, and that JC is the one with all the mental health issues. That's the one with paranoia. That's the one with all the schizo. That's the one with all that stuff. Because once I get home, guess what? The mask comes off. So she said, I can't. You're too much. And for that moment, that morning, I got up and I was like, man, you know, I'm gonna lose one of the best things I've ever had, because she was like the longest relationship I've ever had. Just completely different of everything.
Yeah.
So that's the day I went downstairs. It was 3 a.m. I went downstairs and I got on my knees. That was the very first time I've ever submitted to anything. And I got on my knees. And I just looked up and I said, what do you want me to do? And man, I started crying in a way that I'll never be able to explain. Like, I was crying, my boogers were coming out, I was farting. Like, it was like a whole, like, I don't know. Like, it was just, I have never cried like that before. And I couldn't even look up. I was crying. My head was down on the carpet the whole time. And I got up, and it happened again when I was in the garage working out. That's the day that I went upstairs and I told all my YouTube subscribers that I wasn't going to talk about cartels no more. I wasn't going to talk about gangs no more. From here on, it was going to be about Jesus and changing and just, you know, being who I was supposed to be, not what the world convinced me I needed to be.
Yeah.
And everything started to change from that moment on.
Wow.
Everything.
It's the love of a woman is God's greatest gift to man, and it's so interesting because He used obviously your wife in that relationship and to get to that point. Now you guys have been married for how
long? 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
And you know it's amazing, but like, had she not been there, who knows? You know, if you would have gone.
Yeah, we went through our ups and downs. We separated like 9 times. Yeah, and it was fights, and I have to believe that, you know, I was so embedded in a lot of my ways that you know, I had to break a lot of molds.
Sure.
And you know, one of them was control, one of them was jealousy. Just a lot of things that I used to think made a man. You know, now I'm starting to realize that, you know, the softer I've become, actually, I feel more like a man.
Right.
Because I don't feel guilty about nothing. You know, life is good, man. My daughter just had a baby, and I'm a grandfather now.
Wow.
And I was thinking about it today in the morning. I was like, I would have never been ready for that a couple years back, because I wouldn't known how to love my granddaughter.
Right.
And today I know how to love her, but it's by the grace of God.
Yeah. Oh man, that's amazing. Well, so tell me a little bit about your gym and like how people can support your mission and what you're doing about the book. You know, what's coming up. How can people help you and really get your message out there?
I mean, I always tell people, if you guys want to help, you know, sharing, you know, sharing is the biggest thing to get the message out there. Whoever needs to see it or hear it or read it is going to get it. I tell people, I don't chase nothing because I know it's Him that's going to make it happen. Yeah. And if you guys want to help out, you guys can go to I have a GoFundMe, Wrong to Strong. The gym, honestly, I hope that I start stepping back a little bit from the gym and start focusing more on the studio. I'm more excited about the studio. I want to learn a new chapter in my life. I'm in love with video. I'm in love with like audio. I'm ready to take my podcast to a different level. Yeah. I have hundreds of stories. Yeah. So the book is just like the icing on the cake. I'm working on 5 books. How to Diet Like a Mexican. It's a funny, like our kind of culture diet book with like recipes, stuff like that. A Dozen Roses. A Dozen Roses is a book based on all the strong women in my life, because I grew up with a lot of women in my life.
Yeah, I like the title.
And Walking the Dog is a book about a narcissist, me. And I have another book that I'm gonna be releasing that's about my life. It's gonna be my full story, and there's one on Amazon already called JC's Chronicles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
I've been busy, man.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. The first one, it made me chuckle. Diet like a Mexican. So I I love to cook. I love it. Like I'm a home chef, got the whole thing, and I cook a lot of Mexican food. But you got to be very careful on what you're cooking, otherwise it can really add up on the pounds.
Yeah.
So what are some of your go-tos?
Well, I took a lot of old Mexican recipes and just made them a little bit healthier. So I just tweaked them, and I made it like a book that's funny to read, because at the same time it's giving you like recipes, but our culture is very funny. Like my dad, we used to go to this restaurant, and my dad was always into lifting weights and everything, but he would order 20 tacos. And yeah, these are the small tacos, but it's 20 of them.
Yeah.
And he would order a Diet Coke with that.
Yeah.
And I would be like, Dad, what are you ordering a Diet Coke for? Like, you might as well drink a real Coke. Oh, I don't want the extra calories. Yeah. It's like, what are you doing? So when I was meal prepping, when I was dieting for my last competition, one of my coaches was like, JC, what are you eating? Because I would eat 4 tacos every day. And it would be 4 ounces of chicken for my 2 tacos, 4 ounces of beef for my 2 tacos. And it would be a half a slice of cheese on each one. And those were my go-to meals every day because I like them.
Yeah.
And my coach was like, what are you eating? I was like, tacos. And he's like, you're meal prepping with tacos? And I was like, yep, I'm hitting my calories. He's like, maybe you should write a book about that. And I was like, you're right. And I wrote it down, and I ran with it, man. I always tell people, some of the best ideas I've had have been from someone else.
Well, the second that book comes out, please, I want a signed copy. I will buy it, because I'm always into that, because it's you can eat healthy and you can still eat delicious food.
Yeah,
And that's what it's all about. But no, man, this is awesome. I know you got to get going, but thanks for coming in, stopping on. We've stayed in contact on social ever since we met.
Yes.
And it's one thing I appreciate about you a lot is, because there were several people there that day, and Chris and I stay in touch, but I haven't talked to anybody else, and you sent me a message on Messenger, you liked one of my stories. I sent you a message back and forth, and I mean it's been almost 9 months now, and we're still in touch, and I feel like I'm not the only one. You seem to be like that kind of person that keeps in touch with people. And that's a tremendous attribute to somebody who spent as much time not being around people and from that world. So, man, I appreciate you doing amazing work, brother. Thank you so much. Guys, please support Julio any way you can. Check out all of his different socials. Where can they find you on social?
Just type in Wrong to Strong. That's it. T-O, not a 2.
Wrong to Strong. In fact, the keychain you gave me that day, it was very funny because I hadn't reached out to you yet. And a week prior to me weeking out, it broke off my keychain. It's in my car. And I'm like, so I need a new one, by the way. But like the little screws like on. On the top
it must be a default on those things because they all broke the same way.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, it's okay. It's still in my car. But no, this is a lot of fun, man. Guys, make sure you share this out. There's a lot of people that need to hear this message and this story and need to know more about this man. So thank you, guys. We will see y'all next time.